What up? Can you hear me, Charles?
Mm-hmm.
All right, great.
Yes,
Good
sir.
afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the South Star Classroom. We are today on episode 229. We got an interesting show for you today. Before we dive into that, it's going to be just me and Dr. Cole flying solo today. We hope that Jubilee and Omar are off in the world doing great things. So yeah, let's check in, Charles. How was last week, and how are you doing, brother?
Man, I'm here, I'm standing, trying to run this company, trying to fundraise, trying to knock things out. I see my picture is skipping a little bit. I'm gonna see if I can work that out. But I'm doing well, man. I'm happy to be here. I was saying in our group chat, I have my cadence and one-on-one style with Omar, and even with Jubilee, it's a little different than with Omar. So I'm looking forward to, we haven't got a chance to do this in a while. So I'm looking forward to a really good conversation that we can go a little deeper in, since it's less mics to pass.
That's right. How's everything in Chicagoland?
We still got our weather. So it's 75 yesterday, which means a storm came. So right now it's about 50 and storming. Here's the thing. I'm not afraid of thunderstorms. So it was beautiful last night, but I'm sure if, you got kids or a dog that's afraid of stuff, it's a little rough. And I'm not a big dog person. I think I talked about, I'm not a pet person, but my aunt's dog died. It was over 10 years old. The little, what is it, Bichon Frise or whatever, one of them little fancy dogs. I'm gonna replace it whenever she wants it. So I took my aunt out to dinner. She had never had we went to a Brazilian steakhouse, and it bugged her out. Like all the meat that comes around. I was like, pace yourself. There's gonna be there's more meat. Like it's a lot of meats, but getting to see her smile and stuff was cool, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Still in spring break mode. We've got 2 weeks of spring break here in the house. So we were out last week down in the great state of Florida, which nice. On paper I'm not supposed to like, but I love it down there. So
people love Florida. I mean, they might not like the politics or the crazy people, but Florida's incredible.
It is, man. I love the landscape, and it's super chill. So we got to spend some time down there visiting some family, and got a little boat time. Caught one big storm, one of those crazy Florida storms with lightning and thunder and all that stuff.
And then it dried up immediately, and you was back at
it. Pretty much,
yeah.
But what was interesting was that we watched a couple of movies, and I don't really pay. I'm just not a big movie. I mean, I love watching movies, but I don't follow all the movies as they're coming out. And I remember there was a show a couple of weeks ago that we did where you were all doing kind of a mini debrief on the Oscars.
Yes.
And the movie with I think One Battle After Another.
Yes. Right? So you finally got to watch it?
Finally got to watch it.
Okay.
And oh my goodness. What a great film. I had heard about this through a number of different people, like number one through you all, and I just never I didn't register. And then I saw separately some clips from the movie because there's the scene at the very end with the car chase is just here in San Diego County.
Okay.
It's a place that we go to quite often in the desert. And they talked about the nature of the car chase scene and how it was kind of unique and, one of the better ones it's pretty much ever been done for film. And that I heard about that just randomly through some other social media thing. And then I heard about some other angle of it. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, I know this movie. So there we go. We got to see it. I thought it was very interesting, but that's
I have an interesting relationship with the movie. I think I am Sean Penn is Sean Penn. He was definitely eating up that scenery, doing his thing. Like it was great. I respect the movie. I didn't personally love it, but I mean, I can break down kind of why, but it's one of those things where you can see it and understand why people are gonna like it. I feel like a movie that's a really white movie, right? And then with these themes and all that stuff, like the black woman character is like she runs out on her husband, on her guy, on her kid.
Yeah.
She sells out the movement. I just and the lines that they had them use, like this P don't pop for you no more. Like it felt like I was in the middle of a Paul Thomas Anderson fever dream, like how, and I know he's married to Maya Rudolph. You know, she's royalty. She's very famous on Saturday Night Live, and her parents were very famous. You know who her mom is, right?
I don't.
Oh, the singer that sings "Loving You," that's her mom.
Minnie Riperton.
Minnie Riperton is her mom. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And if you and if you go and you I gotta get this other person up off of this chat, but if you go and you listen to the song again, like her, so interesting thing that you didn't know you was gonna get, her mother died of cancer. And so at the end of that, she knew she was dying. So in her biggest songs, you can hear her saying Maya at the end. So she's saying, if you listen to the song again, you're Maya. Yeah. So it was she dedicated. I don't know if that's a song to dedicate to your daughter, knowing what the song is about, but it's a beautiful thing. So, you know, I get why people like it. I'm not mad at people loving the movie.
Sometimes I watch movies and I just need to, like, you know,
zone out.
I can do that too, but sometimes I'm just like, okay, you know, let everybody do the stereotype, you know,
right?
Because this is what we got.
Right.
Speaking of stereotypes, we are not going to talk about Tiger Woods. We don't have enough information yet.
Yeah, man. I wish Tiger Woods well, man. Get a driver, bro. That would be my thing. But yeah,
it's crazy. And I don't know if we're ready to talk about Cesar Chavez either. We need more information on that. That's crazy,
bro.
The whole situation, man. The whole situation is crazy.
It's a crazy situation. I just feel like that man not here to defend himself at all. Like I just don't. I don't know, man. I was a little surprised that the Latino community, like, I don't know. Like, look, man, we do this in a black community too, where something happens and we throw everything out the baby with the bathwater. Ain't nobody canceled a $20 bill yet. Ain't nobody canceled money. And President's Day is still a thing, even though they owned slaves and, you know, and were racist to the Chinese. And, you know, and I know it's a complicated topic and it's a tough one. It feels like our groups that don't have a lot of representation in the framing and the things that we've done. I don't know. It's a tough topic, man. I don't know what happened. I feel like a lot of decisions happen very swiftly though. And I just was, like you said, there's a lot of information kind of missing.
Kind of a setup, but I don't know. Anyways, So, well, today, Mr. Conrad and Dr. Cole, we are going to talk about a follow-up to a show that we did a couple of weeks ago, having to do with school choice, right?
Yes.
And we had talked about some of these bills that were moving very quickly through the legislatures of a number of states. I think we're going to talk about Texas in particular and Arizona today. The 2026 version of school choice. What was the promise of it, and then what did we end up getting? And so, because we have some preliminary data, this data is probably outdated already, even though it's a couple of weeks old. But it is what it's what we have, and it tells the story. And so there'll be more to come. So we'll get into it. But I wanted to start with kind of setting the stage, and maybe you can help me with this, because you obviously have, you're very well aware and have studied the work and the history of Dr. Howard Fuller, right? Mm-hmm. He was one of the school choice pioneers in this country with a lot of the work that he did in, I believe, Indiana. Is that correct?
No, Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. Sorry, Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. Okay. And decades ago, he had a vision and saw that vision to fruition and execution around what school choice could look like for a particular subset of students that historically had not had access to quality schooling, right? And so, long story short, and I'll frame it up, and then if you want to just add some color to it, the vision of school choice was one of, focusing on a particular demographic of young people that were in public schools that historically were not serving those children, right? Also, young people whose family came from a particular income bracket. So we're talking about low-income children that were in failing public schools. Right?
Absolutely.
What would it look like to open up the possibility for them to attend a private school of their choice using a voucher, right? Which is essentially a coupon, right? Right. And they ended up, moving forward some kind of I don't want to say watered down, but a modified version of that, through the state legislature. And so, it was essentially like school choice, but with particular guardrails, right?
Right.
And so I'm going to pause there, and if you want to add any color to that piece before we move on to like what we're seeing in 2026.
No, I think that you're hitting it. And I think if you watch Dr. Fuller's documentary, which I know you have, he talks about that, right? Like the first step was, and he will not say school choice. He will only say parent choice. And I kind of got that from him. But
yeah, thank you.
It's an important distinction, right? Because what you're talking about, what's happening right now is a bit of school choice of like, well, this is going to be used by people that are already wealthy to kind of, be able to get a bit of a break. And listen, tragedy of the commons is a real thing. For people that don't know, tragedy of the commons is when it's an economic theory, but it's basically when there's a benefit to be had, those with more resources, people be selfish and they will overuse and take advantage of that common good to the point where other people can't get access to it. And I think that's what a lot of people are worried about with the school choice thing right now, is that one of two things is happening. It's that poor people won't know how to navigate or be able to take advantage and get these things, and the rich people will just use it more. And two is that to prevent those poor kids from being able to use that voucher, they'll just raise the price to a place where they still price out these other people despite a voucher, and these other people get to have it. So we're seeing a little bit for that, but I still want the options there for people. Like, it makes me want to do work with those people to like, yo, let me find out this process. Let the South Star Classroom, or let David, or let Omar, or let Charles, or whatever, all of our various companies, like, really, when this stuff is coming up, host seminars, be somewhat of a social worker for these people so they can actually benefit from it. I think that's how you have to combat that stuff.
Yeah, that's great. And you got a little bit ahead, but that's okay.
Oh, my bad. There. I'm sorry. I was giving that's my initial. I got a lot more to say.
Okay, good. So so then we get to 2024, 2025. Trump gets reelected, and we have this new wave of school choice coming to a number of different states. And it's coined as educational freedom, right? I think that means different things to different people. And so what it's looked like is much more kind of a universal school choice without particular guardrails, and it's expanded quite quickly. Federal policy, looking at even now some kind of a potential nationwide adoption, which is crazy, but I don't know if they could really pull that off. So let's talk about what it looks like in Texas and Arizona, and not just the numbers of people that are applying, because you see this, I don't know if you see it in your social media feeds, but there was an orchestrated campaign to say, 100,000, 200,000, 1 million people in Texas have applied. This data, again, I want to caution that it's probably outdated.
Okay.
But what we're seeing so far with the applicants in Texas is that the vast majority of them are not students and or families that were currently in public schools. So about 70%, anywhere between 70 and 75% in Texas were already in a private school or a homeschool setting, right? And so we're really not talking about school choice or family choice for young people or for families that are quote unquote locked into address geographically zoned failing public schools. Okay. Again, about 20 to 24% as of this last data collection, which is probably a little bit old now, but it's definitely from the last like month or two, were from public schools. So 3 out of 4. I don't know about you. And when we're still talking about in the state of Texas, we're still talking about less than 1% of all public school students. So it's still a very, very, so you're going to see people touting this as a huge win for Texas and educational freedom, but it's still just like less than 1%. And then within that, an even smaller subset of families that are applying for these funds to move from a public setting to a private setting. So that's what's happening in Texas. We're not seeing a huge departure from public schools. Mainly families that are already paying for private or homeschooling are using this as a way to, subsidize what they had been doing before. Arizona, we're seeing similar trends. New vouchers, about 70 to 75% also had never been in private schools. So we're talking about private, homeschool, or just like, students that are coming in at the kindergarten age. Arizona was the first large-scale universal model. Texas and others are now following the same. And so I want to pause right there. So when we think about the civil rights kind of orientation and focus of what Dr. Fuller was trying to accomplish versus, now it seems like we're kind of at the stage of like universal subsidies, right? And the subsidy is like you're essentially, you're taking government money to pay for something that you are already paying for, right? I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Are we living up? Are we really living up to the, the vision of Dr. Howard Fuller, or have we gone astray?
Well, we're absolutely not living up to that. But I think what he would say, well, I know what he would say because I talked to him a lot, but what I think is I'm looking at it like a machete. A machete, if we're in the woods and your little boy and your boy is with us and we got to eat, a machete, that thing can kill something and we can cook it and we can eat it. That edify the entire community that we have. Or you can use a machete and be a mass murderer. Like the machete is just a tool. It's like this school choice thing, these vouchers, it's a tool. And when you're thinking about it in a certain way to kind of build this justice for people and to get these people that's trapped out of it, that's just the one lens that you're using. Other people might use it for a different lens. And if you are somebody that wants to be bigoted and wants to have more separation, then you will find ways to have that. I like that the tool exists. I think that we need some agency around said tool, which includes some education, some awareness, some navigation on it, and instilling a sense of duty. And I think that, so if you just put this out there, again, the intentions, depending on who made it, I can guess what the intentions were. I can guess that those intentions wasn't Dr. Fuller's. But I think what can happen is you can get a crusader in the midst of that, though, and help people kind of navigate it to be put in a better position. So
what do you think? What do you think? You don't have to go line by line, but like, broad brushstroke, what do you think the intentions were of this latest round of universal school choice?
Yeah, I think one, I think that I hate that the school choice and parent choice. I don't want to interchange them, but I think that depending on who's in office, right? There's usually some other things that go with that. So they're not always the purest of intentions. Probably wasn't meant for those poor people or those black people or those brown people that think in a left-leaning way. And it could be, we don't like this public education system. We don't like the taxes that go into it. So we're going to use this tax money how we want to. There's a larger thing there. On his face, though, I don't know their intentions, and I can't legislate intention. Well, you can, but I can't, I don't know how concerned I can be with that is, as opposed to let me figure out the rules so I can navigate and equip my people to take advantage of it in the way that would be my intention, or why I believe in parent choice. I believe in parent choice because I myself have been trapped in schools. My mother threatened with jail time if she got caught using the wrong address to get me in a better school. And I don't think people should go to jail for trying to get their kids educated, especially when they want a better education. And if this voucher, if I take you at face value and you say this voucher helps everybody get to a higher education, or at least be buyers in the game, in the market of education, then with how my life is played out and how I operate and roll and we've worked together, I'm going to use that stuff to my advantage. I'm going to use it to the advantage of the people that I care about. So that's what I would say. Their intentions, though, I cast my aspersions on them, but I can't, they're going to say something different if you ask them.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll get into that. Let me ask. So, school choice in the South means quality schools.
Well, I want you to answer too, though. I'm sorry. I want to hear your thoughts as well. I know you're in host mode, but
I think with this current round, I think at some point, because I've watched the changing of the narrative around this the new school choice movement going back to the first Trump administration, and it really used to be rooted in educational opportunity and access to high quality, not even high quality, but like an educational program that really meets the needs of the child and the family, right? And I'm not hearing what I'm hearing now is more of a, like, this is being used as an escape route. So, we can move our families. And when I say our families, I think predominantly like white families and not lower income white families, because the data also shows that a lot of these families that are taking advantage of these programs are not low income families. Likely families that can afford to pay for private school. So, talk about getting ahead in the rat race. Let's figure out how to give middle to high income white families, an opportunity to access government subsidy, right, to pad their budgets. However, I digress. But I will say, I think this whole thing around like the trans smear campaign and teaching, putting, books with like sexually explicit content in kindergarten classrooms thing, has rightfully scared a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's kind of part of what I'm seeing now. And then underlying all that, what's not really said is, like Bill said, we don't want to send our kids. Is there a way that we don't have to send our kids to the schools with the black kids and the brown kids? Period.
Or the poor kids, right? Because rich white people don't like poor white people. So
exactly. Yeah. So that's how I see it. I think we'll continue to follow the trends and the data. I think it would be interesting to look at that, the 1 out of every 4 who's possibly. So we're going to get there. But I think it would be interesting to like look at the 1 in 4, that 25% that was in public that is going private, and like survey them about like why, right? Is it academic? Is it a cultural thing? Maybe it's a religious thing. Like, I don't know. But I think that would be interesting to unpack. So let's talk about this next thing, because you brought it up. So we have, we have these like education coalitions, and a lot of times they can be very, what do you say, like bring very strange bedfellows into the same room sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember, I think I've talked about this before. One of the times where I really kind of got a strong whiff of like this whole, I don't know what you would call it, but like super conservative kind of like, thinking about public schools and why they're not good was like 20 years ago. I was was working for the California Charter Schools Association, and we were at an all staff event. This is when CCSA was like really big.
Mm-hmm.
It's big, probably the largest like statewide charter association. And we weren't focused on like closing schools. We were focused on like opening schools, like constantly, churning. And we had a lot of funding from a lot of big donors, right? Maybe I won't name the particular ones, but
Mm-hmm.
I will say probably the single largest education funder in terms of like education reform and charter schools. Their education rep was in the building with us, talking about the importance of like school choice and why we should, continue to work hard to provide access to low income families, in California to charter schools because of the dangers that public schools present to children because of the existence of, pedophiles in public schools.
Wow.
I was like, what? Record skip. It's like 20 years ago. Or was it? Yeah, it was like 15 years ago, maybe 20. And I was like, record skip. I'm like, that's not why I'm here.
Right.
That is not why I'm in this movement. So, I mean, I kind of, I picked that up. And now we are where we are. So, that sometimes the strange bedfellows can kind of get in the same room and work things out. And I'm not saying it's not possible now, but when you think about getting in the room with people to say like, okay, if we're going to do this universal choice thing, how do we get focused on, like goals around like why do we all really believe that this is important? I don't, the more the time goes by, the more faith that I lose that that's actually possible.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I think it's just baked into society, right? Like you have to, at some point, be able to work with people that you don't agree with. And I think with the proliferation of social media, the internet, all that stuff, I think that we're even more splintered in that way. There's not gonna, I don't know how much you can get done if you're only working with people that you feel agree with you 100%. I think that you also have to have your goal, and the goal has to be top of mind, and you have to have your non-negotiables. Like they're just things that you have to do as a responsible adult of like, look, I got to work with these people that I don't really agree with. Here's what my ultimate goal is. And if it's for your child or for the people that you love, it might be a little easier, right? It might just be like, look, if the alternative is my kid getting a shitty education and a terrible future, then I can deal with this jack off for a little bit, right? This jackass is going to get on my nerves, but whatever. But you also have to have your lines that you just won't cross. Like, what is your line? And when we did the talk with Fuller was very clear on his line. I'll sit down with a George W. I'll sit down with a George Bush, and I will talk about these things and talk about education, and he gets out of my way and I can do my thing. He does not feel like he could do the same with a Trump administration. It's just the line that he crossed. No judgment to other people that have different. He made his own decisions, right? And I think that that's how you have to approach these things. There's a level of privilege at times, though, of being able to avoid places with people that you don't like. That's just not the reality that I grew up in. I grew up living in shelters. You either need a place to sleep or you don't, bro. Like, yeah, people in that shelter stink, man. I was I was doing an episode about ambition, and I had to go. Producer made me go deep into some stuff. I had to go deep into one of the shelters I lived in, where it was like 75 bunk beds, and this. I don't want to be there at all. But the alternative is something really a lot worse. So the decisions had to be made, and pride had to be swallowed. How bad do you need that education? What does it mean for you and your family? And I guess my point is, it's not for Charles and David to make that decision for you, but here's a framework of how you can think about it to kind of move forward. That's how I think about it.
So, I mean, I know in California, we continue to fight for. I'm not even talking about. We don't have any kind of private school choice program, family choice program in California. We have some semblance of school choice, like within school districts. So, like for my particular family, we were zoned to a high school in our district, and we had to apply to attend a different high school within the district that we weren't zoned for. Mm-hmm. That's school choice. That's like public district school choice. You live in a circle, and you can go to any school in that circle, right?
Yeah.
Then you enter charter schools into the mix, and then you have, even more choice. But I mean, we're fighting right now in Oakland to keep, charter schools open that are coming. I mean, not just dealing with like enrollment issues and as a result, financial issues, but just like the politics are swinging back around. And, as big districts are experiencing enrollment decline and pressures to like close their schools, they're going to look down and kick the can down the road of charter schools and be like, you first, right?
Yeah.
And it's happening. And so point being is like, we're struggling for like in California to protect what little school choice, family choice opportunities like we even have, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, certain states in the country are like the opposite. They're on the opposite end. They're just going like full blown, like universal. You apply. We're not going to ask you how much money you make. We don't. It's like there's no. There are no conditions. So,
right.
Question for you, and this is not on the script, but it kind of is. Actually, it is. It's number 3.
Oh, good.
Like if you were to be able to like sketch out some guardrails today,
mm-hmm.
if you're in the room with what's her name, Vince McMahon, what was his name? His wife's name?
Oh, Linda McMahon.
Linda McMahon.
Yeah, Linda.
Yeah. You're in the ring with Linda McMahon, right? And what would you tell her in terms of like guardrails for school choice? They're going to pass a national school choice bill. What would your top 3 things be?
Well, I would want disaggregated data before and after. I would want academic data, and I would want demographic data of who's taking advantage and who is not. I just think it's important. That's what helped you. If the reason why you're doing it is the reason, if what you say is actually true, then you want to be able to make sure you're serving the right people. So you got to collect that data. So the first 4 years or so may be the wild, wild west, or maybe 2 or 3, but you make adjustments to make sure it's helping who it needs to help. That's one. I think 2, I think that you have to also be on the lookout for schools that have private schools that have fishy behavior. So if the tuition just jumps right out, if the tuition has been steady or being somewhat like this, like the way it kind of should be, right, where it's going up a little bit, that's fine. But if you see like an anomaly of like a 3x 4x jump or a spike that doesn't really make sense, you gotta flag it and you gotta investigate it. I think that's 2. And I think that the other guardrails are, the conversation needs to be about academic outcomes and measurings of growth. So if I'm a private school that is now part of this piece and I take in these influx of students, my overall numbers may struggle, but if I'm showing that these kids started here and they have this leap, I think that's also important. And I think with all of this, what I would do politically, and this is just me being I was a poli sci guy. You know, me and Omar love talking about politics. I would bake things in where it's like, as a country, we have a goal of how smart we want. What's the new floor? I would call this project the new floor. You know, and meaning like we're gonna like raise our standard of education in this country back to a place where it was, because it's been dwindling. So those are some of the guardrails. You can't solve for everything. You can't, on a federal level, it's hard to figure out what they're doing directly in Alameda County. But what you can do, is make it tenable enough and enough markers where you got enough data to make some decisions. That's how I would approach it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree on the. I think I would consider a cap on income, and I know that's tricky because, you know, the standard of living in Kentucky is different than the standard of living
Absolutely.
in California, so that complicates it. But it's nothing that, you know, it's like nothing that we can't figure out. I would also create some kind of a work to create some kind of measurement tool that says, like, if you are in, so you're applying, Charles, and that means that the public school that you attend, I would literally make it only public to private. That's it. I think if you're already in private, you're already in private. You know, I think that's a subsidy. But I would say that if you are in a public school, like, we come up with a benchmark for like identifying that the school is, I wouldn't maybe say failing, but like not thriving. I don't know, you know, using like literacy and mathematics outcomes as a barometer. So, okay, that's fair. School's not doing well, right? We're gonna provide you with resources to leave that school, right? We, you know, we could talk about turning the school around and this and that, but that takes decades, if anything. So we're just going to provide you with an earlier escape hatch, and that can include that you're in a public charter school that's, you know, not doing well. I think the other thing that you mentioned is, and I'm kind of reviewing the comments here too.
I can put them up if you tell me if you want me any of them up.
That's fine. I'm just looking. I'm looking them over. I think once, as a government, we start funding private entities, we need to ensure that there's a particular standard, right? So,
Absolutely.
like, if you're so that means mandating that private schools that participate and take these funds have some kind of standard of, like, you know, it was like it was with the charter schools during that time in between, you know, when there was like a period of time in California where we didn't have the STAR testing and we didn't have the Smarter Balance. So they made you adopt other standardized tests. You know, they called it like reliable data or something, validated data. Like, it doesn't have to be the what's the NAEP, but it could be something else.
Right.
Like, we need to know that students that are coming into your school system, your private school system, are you know, are doing well, right?
Yeah.
And so I mean, I think those are a couple for me. I think looking at the demographic data is also very important. Like, who's taking advantage of these programs? Qualitative, like, why are families leaving? So all that to be said, like, we're in this moment now.
I really want to comment back to Bill. I just,
go ahead.
He's turned this into a charter thing. One, we're not talking about charter schools, we're talking about private schools. And two, this whole notion about that these free ride for charter schools, or this notion that charter schools don't get judged or evaluated. Like, first off, in Oakland, they're closing charter schools that are outperforming. They're closing good charter schools.
Left and right.
Yeah, no, I am not a fan of any system. Like, that's the beauty of choice. Like, if you have choices and you want to choose that school around the corner, you should be able to do that. That should be your prerogative. And if my video skipping is getting distracting, I'll turn the avatar on. But
you're fine.
But I just think in this conversation, I just agree with I agree with what you're saying. And the one thing I would add, with all this money, what I think it's time for the government to and this may not happen, but you're talking about if I had the chance, if I was in control, it's time to create something new. Like we can talk about these standardized tests or whatever the case is with all this AI and tablet and stuff like that. We should be at the point where you can be at home and you could be doing a thing. There's an app and you're reading out loud. It's giving you random text at different levels and doing assessment with you right there. Like we're at that we should be at that place in time right now. Like we should be at that place in time where parents and students can do their own reading and learning assessments and like be able to add things outside of the school building as well. I would reward innovation. I would reward things that made us a more literate country and a more numerate. You know, I always mess that word up, but like being able to deal with numbers and things like that in that nature. Like we keep doing the old 200-year ago model of school, and everything around it is advancing except for that. It's happening in pockets, right? Like there's a Purdue Polytech that's doing some great things in Indianapolis, but like standardly, like David should be able to sit with his kid at the crib and be like, hey man, go, let's go read this story for me real quick. Just do this tablet thing and let's really see where you are. And like, so that's the other thing that I would add to it. I would add,
it's really interesting. Yeah.
I would add innovation to it in a real way. Because again, if people are going to complain, and rightfully so, right? The test is racially biased, and that's fine, But there still needs to be some kind of standard measure of how well we're doing. Because now I'm looking at this from a geopolitical and global standpoint. Like other countries not playing with us, man. Like they're not playing with us, dog. Like China is not playing. Like they're just not. Like they're just not. And we're seeing it because we're not building things in the United States as much anymore. We're becoming dumber as a society. We're becoming less literate as a society. And I just like to see some of that innovation go towards more than just making us lazier and fatter.
Yeah. Got a new Chinese microphone, Charles. Do I sound different?
You sound good. You didn't sound bad. The best microphone is the one you don't notice. So there you go. So it's doing well.
Okay, good. All right. So yeah, I think, this is another good topic for a future show. Because my wife works in HR in human resources, and many of her clients are doing work and research now in the whole field of deep fakes. Mm-hmm. Like you have deep AI fakes that are applying and getting jobs. It's insane. I've watched some of the videos and I was like, okay,
that's what I'm saying. Right. And we
I might not get the job. I might not get the job, but at least I'm real,
What is the average reading level of our country? It's something preposterous.
It's really bad. Yeah, it's low.
It's
even lower. It's lower in particular states. And
I don't want to say fourth grade. It's like really low though.
It's bad. Yeah. So
I'll look it up.
So let's see. So something else we have down here is one of the questions. So we're kind of working 7th to 8th
grade level, man. The average American adult reads at a 7th, 8th grade level. However, roughly 54% of U.S. adults 16 to 74 read below a 6th grade level, and 21% are classified as functionally illiterate.
Man, look at California versus Alabama, or New York versus Arkansas. Yeah. Okay. So last question or topic for discussion is again with this latest round of like the school choice kind of mania, and like we're providing opportunities for families and students, educational freedom. I can probably, I don't have the demographic data, but it's probably fair to assume that we're talking about a percentage of white families that is, out of proportion with the general composition of the USA. So like, what do we need to do to, what needs to happen to, like, if we're going to go down this path, how do we make it work for Black, brown, and low-income families?
I think you got to write it in. And I know that when it's government stuff, you have to be neutral in language and things like that. But there's programs. I mean, there's SNAP. There's a whole bunch of things that do target the less fortunate.
And what do we have to do in the community?
In community. Oh, perfect.
Yes.
I love that.
Sorry
Agency.
about that.
There we go. I think that we have to educate. Listen, I have a framework. I have an article hopefully coming out soon in the academic journal, but I call it the AND framework: awareness, navigation, and duty. We got to make you aware. We have to make sure you are aware of your options and what you can do, and you get to choose. Like, again, if you want to go, even if that school's failing, but your granddaddy and your great grandfather went there and you want your kid to go there, that should be your choice. Like, I don't believe in telling people what they got to do with their kids. I just think it's disrespectful. Navigation is the piece that I think is really important. And it's like, you have to know how to navigate this system. You got to know how to pick. You know, we saw this in Oakland when Oakland enroll Oakland, and like, you know, they spent a lot of time helping people navigate how to use it and how to pick their first, second, and third choices. And then what happens is when they start picking other choices, then the system got mad and changed the rules on them because they wasn't picking.
Totally.
That's a whole different conversation.
Too much transparency.
Right. That's exactly what it was. And they got rid of it, which sucked, right? They had to alter it. But that leads me to the last piece, which is duty. I think you do have to instill a sense of duty. We all do better when everybody's smarter. We all do. Like, and I think sometimes the other side can get a little annoyed or frustrated because they think we're saying we want these black and brown and poor kids to be able to read. I'm not saying I don't want white kids to be able to read. I'm not saying I don't want rich kids to be able to know how to read. I want everybody to know how to read, but you have so many more resources and avenues to get to that place. If you are blessed enough to be able to send your kid to a Kumon or utilize those things, like, there's an orientation that you have already that's like helping with those kids. So in community, we have to do that, and we have to really, you know, talk about, we have to make education valuable again. Meaning, like, we have to, you can do too much now being dumb. There's no, it's like everything's just read to you. Like, we are losing critical thinking skills, you know, more and more. And the less critical thinking skills you have, the less literate you are, the easier you are to control as a people. You know, people are worried about fascism, and we're talking about that. And Bill loves to scream fascism. And Bill, we love you. I probably hear Bill write about fascism, you know, every episode. The quickest way to fascism is have a dumbass electorate and an illiterate electorate and ones that don't understand basic science and basic politics. And oh my God, look up. I think we're there. I think we're getting there. And so it's easier to dupe people and play on emotions without that. And then my long-winded answer I'll leave here is, it may not feel connected, but I am connecting it. I just watched that documentary on the Manosphere on Netflix.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it is a direct, I think it is a direct correlation. And I'm glad that was focusing on white kids too, because it's like, it's not just it's these white kids, their fathers may or may not be there, but then you start listening to them and their comprehension skills are so low. And crazy, when you mix that into loneliness and you mix that into them not feeling valued or whatever the case is, you get this manosphere shit that's running a little off the rails. I think that education is the lack of education is playing a real role there. And we got to want something different. But David, I'll throw it back to you as you answer your question in the same way. If you are the leader and you want to be in control, that sounds like a disincentive. Like, it's a disincentive for people to get smarter, because it's harder to pull the wool over their eyes. They're not going to ask you tough questions. They're not going to demand more of you. So that's my long-winded, bridled answer I got for you, brother.
Yeah, we've got young people out there now that are focused on looks maxing, right? It's like take a hammer. If you're not happy with your jawline, Charles, you can take a hammer and just like start crushing your jawbone.
Does it work?
Hell no, it doesn't work.
I'm like, is it working? What's going on? Listen, snake oil salesmen have been here since the beginning of time.
Because you weren't paying attention during biology. Sorry.
Right.
Oh my God. Yeah, we got to do that. Manosphere one is an interesting one. I haven't watched it, but I've seen a couple
I
of
think I think you should watch it. I just
I'm going
sent the
to. I'm going
invitation.
to. I'm
Well,
gonna
I sent
watch
the
it with
invitation to Chris.
the kid. Yeah.
Yeah, and I sent the invitation. I think you should. I would love that actually. We should talk about it here because I sent the invitation to Chris from my other show because he's been in that and covering that for a while, and we don't agree on everything in there, but he's been going hard at those guys, so he loves it. And so I want to have a discussion with him. But I think we should do it here, and I think you should host it after you do it with the kid, and I think Jubilee should do it with her kid too, because I'm really interested how a parent with a child right present is watching it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We're right in that zone.
And it'll be a blessing if they're actually honest with you in it, because here's the thing, it's speaking to these kids. It truly is. Me and my brother were reflecting on it, and I'm like, man, the guy didn't just kill these people, right? He was kind of being empathetic to like, they did this whole expose thing and all this stuff and made some of these guys, question themselves. And you know what happened as soon as they got on the street? A ton of kids was walking up to these people, recognizing them, and didn't give a damn what that interviewer was saying, right? They like, I still want that. And there's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about it.
Yeah. The manosphere is turning on Trump as we speak.
Interesting. Well, let's see if it blows up in his face.
Let's see. All right. So, we've got some new data. I don't think anything that contradicts anything that we said earlier. But this is like March 2026. So Texas, again, going back to the topic, 75% of applicants for Texas school choice were already in private school. A quarter were in public school. Only 12% of the applicants total were in the highest priority group, which means low income and or disability, right? Mm-hmm. More than a quarter of the applicants come from Texas families earning over $165,000, which, it's not a lot of money, but in Texas, it's a lot of money.
That's going to always be a lot of money to me.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, in Texas too, for sure. So that's what we're seeing there. About 1.5 million students nationwide are now using these vouchers or educational savings accounts, right? Mm-hmm. We didn't even talk about Florida, right? We can do that next time. Let's see what else is popping out right here. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of more of the same, I think it's interesting. I would say I don't think I don't think we're going to see a massive threat to overall public school enrollment. It's still a very small demographic, but who knows? This might be the tip of the iceberg. And so probably something that we shouldn't, ignore. And like you said, as we're moving into that like phase of like going to conferences and convenings and things, making sure that, if you're in the room with people, like-minded people, that's great. But we also have to think about the broader landscape and like, how do you engage? I think, wasn't Chris Stewart on, Chris Stewart was on Tim Pool's podcast with Corey DeAngelis, right?
He was. Interesting show. I mean, he held his own. He definitely held his own against them two cats. Yeah. He said that studio was insane too, by the way. He said it was, he said homie had some bread, but
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but and Kamar asked a question, friend of ours, and I don't know why it's not having the names come up, but I see it on the phone right here. He said, good conversations like this leave you with unanswered questions. What if the best classroom for the next generation is one that moves with them? Education doesn't start or end at the building entrance. And look, you know how I feel about this. I think that we should have, I think that it should almost be like a university system at this point. I think that in a city should see what a city needs like in the future. Are we doing tech? Are we doing agriculture? Are we doing whatever, especially for high schools? And I think there should be specialty high schools, but David's son could be a central student at school A, but could be visiting or be, taking like online classes or taking a class at school B and C. I think you should be able to have the tools to piece together a pretty good education. And I think when schools are able to focus on what they do best, I think you do get better education. That's what I would think.
No,
that was a good question.
I mean, it's definitely a wake-up call for again, I'm thinking about California, but I would say if I was in Texas or in Florida, a wake-up call for large public, school systems. Like people are gonna, it's like there's wherever there's a need, people are going to try and find solutions. And if you're not part of that solution making group, like your group may not be considered as part of the solution. But I think we need to like get into those rooms and have those conversations with people. Let's continue to track the data that's coming out from this like latest round. What I call, maybe I'll walk it back, but I call it scorched earth school choice, right? Just like, throw it out there and see what comes back. But like I have no idea how Latino communities were engaged in Florida, Arizona, and Texas around this opportunity. Not saying it didn't happen. I don't know.
Listen, you what you're making me, if you could send me whatever you got there and I can start there and then I can kind of expand out. I want to research it. I want to figure out I can use, we're pretty smart people. I would love to like do conference calls or video chats with people or help them navigate that stuff. Like I think learning it and figuring out to help people, I think, and I'm sure that, there has to be orgs doing it, right? Like I have a rule that I don't just assume that anybody's doing anything because that's how nothing gets done. But I think there is, even with Scorched Earth, even with them having different agendas, even with them trying to creep and get the Bible into public education, or all these different things, I do think that if you understand awareness, navigation, and duty, that it can still be a blessing for you and your family. Like if you know how to take care of it, if you know how to take advantage of it, and you got to teach people that. There needs to be somewhat of a digital underground railroad for people to take advantage of this stuff and get their kids into school.
That's what I'm talking about. I love that. Digital underground railroad. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. Yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
That's our next business venture. Digital underground railroad.
That's crazy. I love that. Before we move into closing thoughts, Eric has a comment about Dr. Perry using funding for his charter school in Connecticut.
I was not aware, so I'm pretty, I'm cool with Dr. Perry. I wouldn't say we're friends, but we're definitely friendly, and I've done his show a few times, and I talked to him. I think we have a show coming up fairly soon. I didn't know this happened, but I'm gonna text him and reach out because I had no idea. I know he's constantly at war with them, and but this is how we started the show. That there are charter schools that are doing good work, or are fairly young and working their way up, but still kind of being competitive, and they're getting the rug snatched from up under them. I don't know the details to this particular case, so I can't fully comment on it. But as somebody who has seen him up close and seen his passion, I definitely want to check in on him and see what happened. So thank you for letting me know, Eric. I didn't know.
Yep. All right. Well, we are at the end. We've got a minute. So 30 seconds of your closing thoughts, Dr. Cole.
Well, one, he said, imagine medical choice. Many would die from shark. Well, for one, there is medical choice. As somebody who is a senior board member of a major healthcare system, it absolutely does exist, by the way. So there's that.
And people are dying.
You said what?
And people are dying, right?
Yes, people are absolutely dying. But my final thought, man, I think this was a really good topic. And, my final thought would be a little more sentimental. Like I said, I really enjoy this. I love our 4-person group. I think it's becoming more difficult because we have more expansive thoughts, and we're constrained to the hour. But I think that this works. An hour can work with 2 people. And I just think you put together a really good show and a thoughtful show. And, I think I liked your insights, and I like that we built on some things. And my last thing to just leave people off on is just, digital underground railroad. And if you're out there, don't just assume that it's not for you and it won't work for you. Actually do research, actually see how it can benefit. And if you need help, reach out to some people. If you have access to this show, shoot a LinkedIn message, shoot whatever. I don't know how the process works now, but if I knew somebody really needed help, I'd dive into it. And so that's my final thought.
Great. Yeah. Interesting show. They never end up where we think they're going to end up. And I like that. But you know, this show, putting it together, was definitely inspired by some of the data that we just talked about around what's happening nationally with school choice and who's participating and who's not. I'm not going to say I told you so, but I kind of did tell you so when we talked about it months ago. But also, it, you know, connected with, you know, the documentary on, you know, Dr. Howard Fuller's life and his impact, and the work that he did in Milwaukee, his original vision for family choice. I got to get that right. And where are we at today? And so also always inspired by the work of our, you know, my mentor, your mentor, Dirk, right? From the work that we did in Oakland. People that just like continuously fought for the needs of young people and families that have historically been the furthest from opportunity. And, you know, it's sad to say that, you know, like we're still in the work and we're going to always be in the work. And I'm just glad that we have this platform to have these conversations. I mean, at a minimum, to like personally process everything that's going on, but, you know, to also share with our audience. So, yeah.
I love it, man. I thank you so much, man. And again, great episode. You all can catch us next week, same bad time, same bad station. I don't know what's going on with the camera stuff right now. StreamYard's having its issues, but we got it. We're gonna work it out. And with that being said, for Omar and Jubilee, that's David. I am Charles. We'll see you all next time. Peace out.